gentrification starts with artists.
This is not an interview. There is no format. This is simply a conversation about life.
What do you think could be done?
I think there could be more intentional community planning. I mean, I'm dependent on a car. I live out and I mean it takes me 15 minutes to get anywhere.
Hmm.
And that's not a good solution. I mean,
Hmm.
I ideally should be living in a place where there's lots of other people around in a smaller, dense. I think European cities have it well, I mean, much older, but it's like there's more condensed population, services right there, things are within walking
Hmm.
distance,
Yeah.
and there's less reliance on need having to have a car, having there's very little public transportation around here. And people are so disconnected from each other. Like, I don't know my neighbors very well. I know who they are,
Hmm.
but if I saw them out in the world, I wouldn't know who they are.
Right,
I only
right,
know
right,
them because I see them coming out of their house.
right, right, right.
Yeah, I think upping our level of personal responsibility and like really giving ourselves a moment to think
Hmm.
about what we're doing.
Right, right, right. Yeah, because I wonder, like, I wonder, um, the, see, when I think about it, part of the difficulty is not everybody wanting the same things.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's like, in order for it to work, around, like here in Berlin, I don't, I think there's only certain areas that even have single family homes.
Hmm.
And they're nowhere around. Everything is essentially apartment buildings or condo-esque. You know, a lot of people own their apartments and stuff like that, or rent
Hmm.
their apartments. And no, and lots of people don't have single family homes that are set apart.
Yeah.
So in order for certain, if you wanted to have a condensed, like it's here, it's like I guess you just don't have the option. You move somewhere else. If you want to have a single family home, you have to live out there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the people that want a single family home will go out and start something, or one person moves out there and then another person says, oh, that looks nice to live out there, and then they go out there too, and then they're like, oh, this is the happening area, and then everybody starts coming out there. It's the same way, you know, gentrification works and everything. It's not like, it's really an interesting thing the way we perceive things happening, because from
Hmm.
what I can see, for instance, it seems like gentrification starts with artists,
Hmm.
creatives, right? This,
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
seems like that's where it starts. It's not like someone just picking a neighborhood and say we're going to actually just gentrify this. It's more like people say, "Oh, this is a cheap area to live. I'm going to go live in there, and then and then people start bringing their culture into it, their little artistic culture. I like having coffee, like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And then you got the
Yeah.
coffee shop, and then that's when it starts, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
we think in terms of just like always like a big entity doing something, and I think if if we wanted to have a different impact, we have to, not even just the things we do in our personal lives, but the things that we have to sacrifice for everybody. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So if you want less of this, then everybody, we just, instead of building out, we build up. You know what I mean? Everybody's got
Yeah.
to live in the building. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then maybe this would make things better. But as soon as someone wants something else, then that's when someone jumps up to meet that demand. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
No one's getting forced to go live in one of these communities. You know what I mean? Like,
No. Yeah.
and so I think that to even we can take like our personal responsibility to another level and start
Hmm.
with that first, and maybe even start with convincing people that, hey, it's really cool to live like this. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
And try to get some people's heads around these ideas, because I think there, if people weren't buying these places, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't be
Yeah.
building them.
Right, exactly. No, they're getting filled up like before they're even done being
Yeah,
built. They pre-sell them and then they were like, "Oh, they built my house for me. Now I move in."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think a huge part of it is that there's just a lot of people. We all got to go. They've all got to go somewhere. I mean,
Mhm.
that's something my mom's like, "Where are these people coming from?" And I'm like, "We keep having babies, there's like how many billions of people on this planet. We got to go somewhere,
Yeah,
you
right.
know?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I yeah, we just have to. I mean, if you think in terms of we have to like figure out like ways around it, because you can't count on other people to do what we think is the right thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, I really stopped thinking in terms of systems, and for me personally, I stopped thinking in terms of systems and institutions and stuff like that, and I just think about like what I'm doing, because this, even with the example that you gave about burning the trash, it's not as simple as, like, people have to really feel it in their hearts. You know what I mean? And they have to,
Yes.
it's not even just knowing, they have to feel it, because
Hmm.
otherwise they're going to be like, I ain't going all the way down there to, like, they won't even go down to the dump. I'm not trying to do all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why the lady stopped. She stopped for a short period of time and then they started again.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we forget that every person is just like, well, we take our chances. If the baby gets cancer, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a risk. The life is
Yeah.
risk. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And so as soon as there's like a discomfort involved in it, then, you know what I mean?